everybody. Welcome back to the Friday Society. We are here today with Miki Ash. I'm so excited. Miki and I were talking about this before, but a fellow Friday Society listener actually follows Miki and said she would be a great guest. So I love when you guys do that. And Miki, I'm so excited. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Amazing. So can you tell everybody, why don't we just get started with, where you
Okay.
are and what your day is like so far today?
I am currently coming to you live from Austin, Texas. I'm here in my home studio. I actually spent the morning filming some classes that will be available online and yeah, doing all my self-love, self-care things to prepare for this moment
Amazing. I love that.
and coffee.
Yeah, of course, and coffee. What goes into like a filming day for you? How many videos do you usually film? And, how do you kind of prepare for that?
It depends what the filming is for. I have an app, it's called The How, and it's basically like my own little wellness studio in your back pocket. So I work with a videographer most of the time when I'm creating content for The How. So I'll take time to conceptualize. Usually it's like a series that I work on at a time, or what kind of classes do I want to make sure are available in the How library. So always just getting really clear on what I'm filming ahead of time. And then if I'm working with someone, usually my girl Alex, she'll come in and we'll set up and just knock out as many classes as we can. Obviously, I prefer quality over quantity. So if I'm starting to get burnt out, then I cap it because I would rather be feeling good and excited while I'm teaching and filming. Today, I was filming a 60-minute class for FP Movement that will be in their video library. So I just had my little phone set up on the tripod, super simple. And yeah, just keeping the dogs out while I'm filming is the hardest part.
It's always the hardest part. I think that's so interesting though. And it's so fun for me to always hear what goes on behind the scenes because I feel like also with iPhones nowadays, like sometimes I can't tell if it's an iPhone quality or professional. So
hmm
it's fun to sort of know. But I think what you just said of like you have your intention and you get really clear on how you want it to feel and how you want it to look. Obviously, life doesn't always go that way, but I think that's such a great reminder to just go into every experience kind of with your intention. So I loved that. I thought that was
Mm,
great.
yes.
Okay, so thank you. So now let's back up a little bit. So your wellness journey, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about, just yourself and how you kind of got started with yoga and with your whole wellness journey?
Well, it definitely wasn't something I sought out to do. I grew up in LA and my whole family's been in the fashion industry. I thought for sure I was going to go into fashion. After high school, I moved to Paris and was interning with a clothing brand. Like I really just went full in. Like I thought that's the world I wanted to be in. But I felt like it was a jarring experience. I felt so much judgment and just not this like creative, loving experience I thought I was going to have. So it made me have to pivot. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do at that point. I'd never really done yoga. I was not like into physical activity. Like I was never an athlete growing up. I always did art. And so even the thought of being a yoga teacher literally never crossed my mind whatsoever. So now I'm like, I just turned 18. I, don't know what I want to do with myself or my life. And I just was in this kind of like dark place of uncertainty. And I definitely wasn't taking care of myself physically, mentally, none of that. Self care did not exist in my world back then. Didn't even know what it was. And meanwhile, I'm just like, I don't know, what to do with myself. And I just it was recommended for me to start going to yoga, and there was a lot of resistance there at first because it was so challenging and I didn't know what I was doing, and I was just like, it was the first time that I really had to like sit with myself. So I'm getting angry and emotional, and like, I'm finally processing my shit for the first time. And even though it's tumultuous during the class, afterwards I feel just radiant, amazing, and light, and free, and happy. And I'm just like, what is this magic? Like, what is the connection here? So I just started really following that curiosity and asking my teacher questions and practicing as much as I could. I really just got hooked, and I started to feel such a difference physically, mentally, emotionally, just happier, lighter. And I just, yeah, like I said, I followed that curiosity and it led me to a teacher training, and I just dove all in. Oh, I lost your audio. 1 second. Can you hear me? I can't hear you anymore. Hold on, let me take my AirPods out.
Oh, wait, can you hear me
Oh,
now?
there you are. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I
So
can
sorry.
hear you.
Um, okay, so when was the moment that you kind of knew this was your thing and you said goodbye to fashion?
Well, I was living in New York for a little bit after Paris, still like trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I was going to school there. I didn't have like I can't even remember the word, a major. I didn't
Okay.
have any like focus. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I was just going there because I like thought that's what I should do. But it was unfulfilling. I was in a toxic relationship, and like I
Mhm.
said, not taking care of myself.
Yeah.
And it started there. My roommate at the time and best friend, her mom was always super holistic, and so she was the one who kind of pushed us, like go to yoga class, like you're
Yeah.
hungover way too many days
Yeah.
a week, you need to get it together. So it started there slowly, because like I said, it was just so hard for me. I couldn't really picture myself doing it. But then
Mm.
after I moved back to LA, I wasn't going to school, I didn't have a job, and so it's just kind of like, what do I do with myself? And
Mhm.
I found a donation studio that I could afford to go to, and I just started going every day just to like
Wow.
fill my time. I didn't know what else to do. And it just like, I don't know, a spark lit within me that was like, yeah, this
Yeah.
is for you.
Yeah.
Luckily, my parents are very eclectic, bohemian, not traditional. So they were never like, you need to go to college and get your degree. They were
Yeah.
always just super supportive, like, do whatever you want to do. What do you want to do? Like, I'm going to
Yeah.
be a yoga teacher.
Yeah.
So,
So when did you know, like, what were the next steps? How did you figure out, the
yes,
right training program? And
yes.
like, how did you get to where you are now, which is, app
Um,
owner, creator? Like, it's so
well,
amazing.
it's been more than 10 years, which I feel like a
Wow.
lot of people don't, they see me where I'm at now and they don't realize it's been over a decade of legwork and laying down the foundation. So
Yeah, I'm
I,
just gonna pause you and
yes.
just say that again. I feel like every single person I talk to in this industry, like we just have to keep repeating that. So just one more time. It took you how long?
Over 10 years to
Yeah.
get from where I started to where I am now.
Mhm.
I signed up for my teacher training when I was 18. I was the youngest in my class. And 10 years ago, yoga wasn't what it is today. It wasn't as
Yeah.
popular or normalized even.
Mhm.
So from practicing and being a student, I found a teacher that I really connected with. And, I told him, like, hey, I can't really afford to pay for classes as often as I want to come. But because I was just so honest, he didn't care. He's like, I just want you to be here, show up, get your practice in. It doesn't matter about the money. More important that you're here. And I just kept asking him questions like, why are we doing this? What is the like I wanted to know because I'd never been exposed to it before. And he really fed that curiosity, which was incredible. I didn't know at the time that it would really be setting me on my life path. And he said, you should do a teacher training. I didn't even know what a teacher training was, and so I was like, okay, where do you do yours? And he pointed me in the direction, which was at the Yoga Collective. They're still a yoga studio in Venice. I did my first teacher training with Tamal Dodge, who's an amazing teacher as well. And, it was thousands of dollars and I couldn't afford it. And so I just did a trade with the studio. I said, I'll work, I'll do whatever. I painted murals, I did art for them in exchange for this teacher training program. So I was determined and I made it happen.
Yeah. That's amazing that you were just like, hey, I would like to do a trade with you. What was their reaction? Were they totally willing, or did you kind of have to like,
Yeah, I
persuade a
mean,
little?
they needed help at the front desk, and I wasn't doing anything else. I wasn't in school or anything, and I was like, this is going to be my school. So
Yeah.
whatever I need to do to make it happen, like I can't just pull this money out of nowhere, but this is what I
Yeah.
have to offer.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. That's so amazing. So, okay. So then you graduated teacher training, and did you start
Yes.
teaching at the yoga collective?
I did, and oh my
Okay.
gosh, I feel sorry for those students who were with me in those first days. I remember my first class, I wrote down my whole sequence. I also wear glasses, and I was wearing my glasses, which like I was sweating profusely, so they were fogging up and sliding down my face, and I was just like running to my notebook to read the sequence, and the people are in the poses. I'm like, where am
Yeah.
I? It was just hot
Yeah.
mess, but
Yeah.
I did it. So I started teaching at that studio for about a year. And then I just felt the call to travel again. So I booked myself a one-way ticket to Costa Rica. And I was 20 now. And I found a hotel out there that needed a yoga teacher. And I just wrote them and they were like, how soon can you get out here? So I just moved out to Costa Rica and started teaching. And at that time, I feel like that's when I really started to develop my teaching voice and style because I was teaching every single day, at least twice a day, just constantly to one person to 10 people. So getting just so much experience and getting more comfortable in what I'm sharing and how I'm sharing it. So that was a really important time for my teaching career. I also had amazing teachers out there I was kind of studying with, um, and just doing it constantly.
Yeah. How long did you live there?
I lived there for over a year and a few months.
Wow.
Yes, it was fun.
That's so cool. So you felt like you wanted to be there and sort of just looked up like some hotels and sort of just reached out?
I knew I wanted to get out of LA. I've felt
Yeah.
that way many times. I
Yeah.
don't live there anymore. um, and yeah, I wanted something completely different. And I just started reaching out until I found the right fit. And at that
Wow.
time, I was working at the front desk. I taught yoga. So I was really just trying to immerse myself and learn the language and everything.
Yeah. It's so amazing that you bring that up. I had this conversation many episodes back, but with Ash Wilking, and she was saying, she was like, everyone thinks that these collaborations that I do with Women's Health Mag and Shape and all these things, she was like, everyone thinks, that they approached me. And she was like, that's just not how it works. Like, you think of something you want to do, and then you have to reach out and you make it happen. And I think that's
Hmm.
such a cool I just think that's such a cool behind the scenes look from you of like on Instagram, it could look like, you just are living in Costa Rica and everything is
Hmm.
beautiful and happy and fun. And it probably is, but you pursued that, like you made that happen. And I think
Yeah.
that's just such an awesome reminder that, you know, you have to be the advocate for yourself to sort of live out
Mm.
that dream that you want.
And I think we're also so much more capable than we give ourselves credit for. But I looking back, some of my favorite collaborations or partnerships have been the ones where I'm just like, hey, I'm reaching out. This is me. This is what I have.
Mhm.
And people usually respond like, like, wow, that's so brave of you, or thank you for showing us your interest. And it always works out if you
Mhm.
just are willing to be a little bit vulnerable and maybe get rejected and not have attachment to the end result, but just know, you tried.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I love that so much. Okay, so how did Free People happen? How did all of these awesome collaborations happen?
So, fast forward from Costa Rica, I moved back to LA. I'm teaching at a studio and everything. And, I started my Instagram when I was in Costa Rica, just posting pictures of like bugs and like sunsets, with all the filters and all the frames.
Yeah.
Um,
How many years ago
and
was that?
oh my God, that was like 9 years ago,
Wow.
which is
Okay.
crazy.
Yeah,
Or
Instagram was a
maybe
different
even
thing
longer.
then.
It was a way different thing. And I was just sharing, pictures of me doing yoga and traveling. 'Cause I've always loved photography. And so it's like, oh, it's just a perfect combination of everything I'm
Yeah.
passionate about. Uh, and so I remember I posted like a photo and tagged what was it, Planet Blue, which is like a little boutique in LA that I was just loved always. And they reposted my picture and I got 1,000 followers in like 5 minutes. And I
Oh,
just like a light bulb went off and I thought to myself, okay, maybe there's something here and I can actually monetize what I love to do, which is be
wow.
creative and share yoga and like inspire people with different imagery and thought provoking captions and whatnot. And I mean, like you said, the Instagram back in the day was a different game. You actually could grow and you actually were, had the potential to be exposed to a lot more people a lot faster. Um, which, you know, I'm very grateful that I got in when I did. Looking back,
Yeah.
you can always think of what else you could have done, but
Yeah.
I made it
So
work.
it's interesting that you bring that up because obviously Instagram growth it's a very different game right now. How
Mhm.
do as someone who's been in the game for so long, I guess kind of like how does that register with like your mental state that like because you know what I mean? Like I feel like
Yeah, I know what you
it,
mean.
it's a very interesting thing where like a few years ago, everyone was getting like so many followers and like so much like quote unquote love, right? Because you think like
Mhm.
that's sort of what it is just in your brain and from like a physiological standpoint. What happens now when it's like slower to grow and
Yes.
how do you kind of deal with that?
I feel like I'm at a much better place now than I was, even over the last few years of just not taking it personally, not attaching my social media to my worth as a human being.
Mhm.
Of course, it's like I'm putting my work out there. Why isn't it being received? Why aren't I growing? Like all of these thoughts of doubt and,
Mhm.
imposter syndrome definitely come up. But I
Mhm.
have to remind myself, like, that's not me. I'm not my Instagram. It's a digital projection of myself. The people who need to see it will find it. And practicing a lot of trust with
Mhm.
the universe, like just knowing that whoever needs to find my message will connect and receive it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's hard not to take it personally when you take pride in what you're putting forth, but at the end of the day, I have to come back to what's my intention, like you said
Mhm.
earlier, of putting this out. Am I doing it just to be validated by some external source? No, I'm doing it because I genuinely want to help someone, to inspire someone, to make someone realize that they can do it too.
Mhm.
So it takes a lot of work on yourself to not
Mhm.
be so attached, but it's important because now I don't feel like a slave to my
Yeah.
Instagram account.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the non-attachment. I think that's such a great reminder because it's so hard, right? It's like your social media is an extension of yourself because it's what you choose to put out there. So it's
Mhm.
yeah, the non-attachment I think is so major.
constant practice too.
Absolutely. Okay, so back to the journey. When
Yes.
did the how come up? When did you have this idea for the app? Like, what did that look like for you?
Sure. So I was actually approached in I used to teach at a studio in LA called Love Yoga, which I love. And if you're ever there, go practice there. So I was approaching my class and I remember thinking, and this was, I guess, like 3 years ago now. I remember thinking to myself, who am I to have an app? I just full imposter syndrome came up, and it took the developer like a year to convince me, like, no, you know what you're doing. This is good. And also to get content off of Instagram and have something that's more evergreen and I can continue to build upon it. Cause I feel like as soon as you post on Instagram, it's irrelevant immediately. So this really allows me to build something long term that I own and that I'm curating. And so the how launched in January 2020. So it's actually it's turning 2 tomorrow.
Happy birthday. Congratulations. That's so exciting.
Thank you. And yeah, I mean, I didn't know the world was going to shut down, but I'm glad that I had something to offer people, some solace, some hope, something to do while they're at home.
Did you have hopes for the app? Was it always just going to be a virtual app, or were you sort of like contemplating an in-person component of it, or did you just know this was just going to be a virtual thing?
As I've had it longer now, I realize, and also after coming out of the pandemic, I realize how much I love being around people and having that in person community feeling. So
Yeah.
the app is there for people all over the world and in a way that allows me to teach without me being there. So that's
Mhm.
really the purpose of it because, I left LA, I wanted to travel, but I didn't want to just leave my students high and dry. So they still had
Mm.
access to all of this information, these practices. And, now I realize the value and how much I get out of having my students be with me in person. I love it so much. So I really want to take the how to the next level and do an in-person kind of tour across
Mm.
the states. I kind of did it when I was traveling abroad in 2019, but that was
Yeah.
before the how existed. So now tying in the two components of traveling, getting to meet people face to face, and then leaving them with this app that they can take with them after I leave.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. You have to let me know when you do it because I want to come.
Yes. Yes.
That's so amazing. I love that. So, 2 years of having an app. Walk
Yes.
me through, some of the highs, some of the lows, like what goes into that.
Yes, well, a lot of planning, conceptualizing before me, my brand voice, my identity, what's the message I want to get across, what's the purpose, what's the why.
Mhm.
And so at first, I planned a whole year basically of content, and then the
Wow.
pandemic hit, and I had to readjust because I was going to do monthly things and it was going to be about travel and all this stuff. And then that
Mm,
all just went off the table.
yeah.
At first, there was a lot of challenges
Yeah.
because I was doing all of the filming, the editing, I was in the content, I was doing the graph, I was literally doing everything myself, and I had to learn. I didn't know how to do video editing, so it was just a lot of obstacles to overcome, and
Yeah.
I definitely hit the wall a few times, broke down a few times, cried a few times,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, you've got to get it done. I
Right.
made a commitment to have this, and so I need to show up for myself, for my community. And then now, like I said, I work with someone else. I finally now have, I'm like, I don't need to wear all the hats. So I
Yeah.
outsource, I can bring people in. That's another goal for this year, is to do more collaborations in the how, bring in other experts in their field. Because, I can only offer so much. Um, but yeah, the highs have been really the messages that I receive from the people who use it just warms my heart.
Mm.
We always kind of think like, oh, I need to reach more people and more and more and more. But then when you get that one message, it's like, you actually made a difference in my life. That's a
Mhm.
person and not just a
Mhm.
number. So
Yep.
that's very satisfying.
Yeah. And that's so much of, that practice too. It's like people, like your followers aren't a number. They're all human beings. And it's just,
Mhm.
it's such an amazing thing. Every message, I think, is just it's just the nicest thing when someone like goes out of their way to say
Yeah, it
something
takes their
sweet.
time.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
very sweet.
So, wow. Okay. This is amazing. So I have to ask, you do all of your
Yes.
graphics?
I worked with one of my friends because I did everything. I've done a rebrand now.
Yeah.
And I just got to the point where I was like, it was too hard for me. I was too close to it. So
Yeah.
one of my friends who's she's just an amazing creative. She helped me kind of create the framework. And then, yeah, but I do everything.
It is that the branding of the how is so beautiful.
Thank
Even like
you.
back from the very beginning, I was just like totally taken aback. I just think the creative design is so phenomenal. So absolute major
Yeah.
props because that is, yes, that's beautiful.
Thank you. Yes,
um
it's
okay,
evolved.
so let's talk about owning a virtual studio. I think, we're in year 2 of the pandemic now. People
Mhm.
are so confused, I think, about like what kind of
Yeah.
workout should I go to the studio? Should I do it? Like there's so much confusion, I think, for studio owners and for studio goers. So a lot of people are wanting to take some of their classes virtually, even if not the full studio, but still just put some online. But they're curious about how to maintain that connection and that relationship with people. So I just saw your Instagram story a few days ago. I think maybe it was today. I don't even know, but you had like 70 people in a virtual class,
No,
right?
that was in person.
That was in person. Okay, awesome. Oh,
Mhm.
that's amazing. How do you, when you have a big turnout, maybe on a virtual class though, or even just when it's an on demand, how do you as the instructor still nurture that relationship with the people that are coming to your class? Like how do you handle that? Is it through DMs? Is it through emails? Like what does that look like for you?
So because I switched to doing everything virtually, March 2020,
Got it.
and I I used a platform to help. It's called With Ribbon, and that's really been helpful for like the scheduling aspect of things. Just creating a calendar and having people sign up for classes. I don't know how to code, so that tool was really helpful. As far as it being, professional and easy to use and user friendly for the student. And then I think consistency is super important if you're going to be doing stuff online. Right now, I've kind of shifted to more in person focus, and my online stuff is a little more sporadic, which it's harder for people to remember when and where, you know what I mean? So, consistency, I think, is a really important factor in building your student base so that people know, okay, every Sunday I'm going to hang out with Miki or whatever it is. And then when teaching a class on Zoom, there's two ways I've approached it. One where I kind of just practice along while I'm teaching, and the other, which I find is more engaging, more connecting, is I'm sitting teaching, but I have all the students in front of me. I am watching them just like I would when I teach in person. Because when I teach in person, I'm not practicing. I'm there for the students. So I try to apply that to the virtual classes, and that allowed me to still feel connected to who showed up if they're sharing their screen and everything. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. What do you feel have been the pros of virtual teaching? Like, is there anything that you're
Hmm.
finding easier to connect with people or, just what have the pros been for you?
Well, definitely being able to teach from the comfort of my own home and creating my own schedule,
Mm,
great pro.
yeah.
Also, being able to connect with people all over the world who aren't just in my immediate vicinity is amazing.
Hmm.
And I get to stay connected to friends in Germany and London and South Africa and wherever it is. So
Yeah.
that sense of community, it was so necessary during the isolation of the last 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I totally agree with that. That's amazing. So, okay, how can people practice with you? How will they download the
Mhm.
app and what will they find when they get there?
Yes. So You can download the app for iPhone and Android now. And it's basically like a library of different practices. So and I tried to just make it as simple, accessible to someone who's either never done yoga or is an advanced practitioner. It's just really practical and applicable. So there's guided meditations, there's affirmations, there's pose tutorials and breakdowns, there's workouts, yoga. There's also an audio section of different, like, they're not podcasts, but they're just like recordings kind of going more deeply into some of these topics, like how to set an intention, like what is an intention.
Yeah.
So kind of just breaking down all of the wellness things that I was like, I don't know what this is, but I feel like I need to do it. So just giving people all the steps
I love
that I
that.
was seeking when I was looking.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And every great business I think is started out of your own personal need. So
Yes.
I love that. Okay, are you ready for some rapid fire questions?
Okay.
Let's do it. Okay. What is your favorite asana?
I would say for something challenging, I love inversions, but I also am a sucker for child's pose.
Yeah, of course. Software that you cannot live without.
I use an app called InShot to edit my videos, and it's the best for me because it makes it really simple. And I use an app called Snapseed to edit my photos, which is also a must-have.
Amazing. Cool. Best business advice you ever got?
I ever got? I don't know if I've gotten much business advice. I think I need to seek some out. Maybe to just be consistent.
I love that. I love that. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
On my own island, surrounded by warm ocean water.
I hear you. It is 19 degrees today, so totally hear you there. Advice that you would give your younger self?
Be kinder to myself and just try to believe in myself more because I can do it.
Yeah, definitely. A dream job besides what you're doing right now, like pilot, something crazy.
I mean, I just would love to paint murals full time if I wasn't teaching yoga.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I feel like you should do a home tour if you don't have one. Do you have one on your Instagram? Because I'm
No.
little snippet of what I'm getting into your home.
Mm,
oh, come on. It's so beautiful.
Little That's my studio. It's very messy on the rest of the side, so you can't see
Did you
anything
paint the
else.
wall behind you?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I
Oh,
wanted it to look like stone.
that's
That was the goal.
amazing. Oh, that's amazing. I love that. Okay, so you'll be a painter. Love it. What is one lesson that you took from the last 2 years that you want to keep with you?
I used to really pride myself on being kind of like a lone wolf and feeling like, oh, I don't need anyone. But I think what I've really learned is that I do need people, and I love that. And I love having people around me. So that's something I'm definitely taking with me.
Yeah, just like more community.
Hmm.
Love that. Oh, Miki, thank you so much. This was so lovely.
Thank
Everybody definitely
you.
download the app. I'm super excited. I can't wait to try it out. I'm gonna plan for doing one later today.
Yes.
But yeah, Miki, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me and letting me share a little bit of my story.
Amazing. All right.